Welcome to A Matter of Perspective. I'm Judge Derwin Webb, coming to you from the Fraser History Museum in Louisville, Kentucky. We have an opportunity to be here today with my friend, the incomparable, the legend, the warrior, my girl, Sadiqa Reynolds. Ms. Reynolds, how are you today?
I'm fine, Judge. How are you?
I'm doing good. Now, I was looking at some things, and I was start thinking about our relationship. We've known each other for 30 years, which is amazing because we're about 32 years old.
I'm shocked.
But how did you get to Louisville?
I came to Louisville for college. So, I'm from the Bronx. I was born in the South Bronx, and my mother...
South Bronx.
South Bronx, no place like it. My mother moved us to Lexington when my father went to prison, actually. And then, I went to Durham, North Carolina for a few years, and then back to Lexington, came to University of Louisville for college on a Porter Scholarship. And then, fast forward, how did I get to Louisville? Came here for a job.
Yeah,
came here for a job.
Okay, let's talk about jobs for a second. I'm going to look at this sheet so I'm not wrong.
Okay.
You're the president and CEO of the Louisville Urban League.
Correct.
First woman to hold this title.
Yes.
Former chief for community building in the office of the mayor.
Yep.
Former district court judge of the 30th Judicial District.
Yes.
First African-American woman to clerk for the Kentucky Supreme Court.
Yes.
First African-American to serve as Inspector General for the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Correct.
You're kind of a trailblazer. What drives you?
Justice, doing the right thing. My mother taught me to show up and do the best I could no matter where I am. So regardless of the job, whether it was my dream job or not, to just do the best I could. I think I've always been somebody who wanted to help make other people's lives better. My childhood was a little bit more complicated than some are, and I didn't want to see anybody else have those same experiences. So I certainly had an amazing mother, but she, like most people, she made some mistakes, and we suffer through those. And so I wanted to go into law to maybe offer women like her a different way, some support, some way of, just some other alternatives to some of the things that we were exposed to.
Right. Now, you talked about the word justice, and I'll get to justice in a second because justice is defined many different ways. But as far as you're concerned, we're living in, people say, unprecedented times. Things are a little bit different. This is a new normal. How are you personally feeling about how things are today in the world? And we'll talk about the world, and then we'll talk about Louisville, how Louisville is feeling you.
So I think that Louisville is just a microcosm of what's happening in the world. I think the world is not a just place. Black people do not have access to justice in the way that other people do in this country, and it is showing. I think COVID-19 exposes a lot of breakdowns in our systems. That's why you see black people being impacted more, dying more, getting sicker, because of the underlying conditions, not just physically underlying conditions, but also the communities we live in, also being overrepresented in those essential service jobs. So if you think about who's actually in a position to work from home, who's in a position to help their children school from home and all those kinds of things, I think in every way, justice has really been elusive to us. And you would know, certainly in the criminal justice system, quite frankly, even in the family court system, whose kids are taken away, who gets the support, who gets, the things that are needed. All of those things are complicated for people who look like us. And a lot of it has to do with what is broken around root cause and the lack of investment. You know what I'm saying? I can't say to you, Judge, don't remove this kid who's been abused because there's some root cause issues. I mean, you've got to do what you've got to do to be able to protect that child. But we also need a system that addresses the root cause challenges so that there are other things, other outlets for that family, other supports for that family. We have families now living in these communities that have been redlined out of opportunity, couldn't get bank loans, couldn't get a loan, couldn't refinance the house, can't find a job, so many things. And it's just one more thing, just the piling on, that I think emotionally really do take their toll on us, which then make justice even more elusive, but also make us look always like the perpetrator when we know, in fact, it is really the system that is the greatest perpetrator of them all, and we are simply responding to that for the most part. So,
well let me ask you, how do we change the system?
Well, I think you have to admit what's wrong with it, right? I think there's been a real serious denial about what is wrong with the system, the fact
Right.
that there is injustice. I think people sometimes will talk about, oh, yeah, we know there's injustice, but when you point to specific things, they don't want to deal with those things. So you and I are sitting here in Louisville, Kentucky. We can look at the Bianca Taylor case. I mean, certainly I have practiced law long enough to know that on average you could probably get 12 indictments in 60 minutes. So I don't understand why we couldn't get indictments on these officers. I don't understand why the Attorney General decided not to push forward with presenting the case to a grand jury. Even more interesting to me, and I think it really does need to be examined on a national level, if you think about Kenny Walker's case and the fact that he was indicted in really less than 3 minutes, which is standard, right? Doesn't take that long. Very easy to indict someone. We have a joke among lawyers, a ham sandwich could be indicted.
Right.
So Kenny Walker is the boyfriend of Brianna. He's in the house. There are guns everywhere. There are bullets everywhere. There's all this information, but it takes them 3 minutes to indict him. Well, then when it's time for the police officers, they get a 6-month investigation, a 2-day presentation to the grand jury. Well, how did that work? Because as I understand it and what I learned in law school, there's only one grand jury process. There's not one for police and one for regular citizens. So explain to me why his process was so different. And if you say, well, you know what ended up happening, the charges were dismissed against him. Yeah, they were. And that might have happened for those police officers. They should have been indicted, and then they could have presented their cases, and due process does what it does. But what we are seeing, again, is a lack of justice, a lack of access to equal justice in this case. So, justice for me really is about equal access to the law, equal access to all of the things that everyone else has. But also is sometimes, if you're talking about education, then I'll tell you that's an equity issue, right? Because in some cases, I don't need equal. I need more than, because there's more of a need because of what has happened in our community. So it depends on the system. But there is no system in America that is working to benefit Black people. There's just no system that works for us. And they work the way they're supposed to. So that's what's important for us to say. The systems are working. They were designed without us in mind. They were designed to keep us in our place. They were not designed for us to be successful. So the fact that you are a judge and I am a lawyer and have been a judge, we are resilient. I mean, it's unbelievable that we have been able to be this successful because statistically the odds have been against us. But I hate when people say, well, you've been able to do it, or he's been able to. In every country, what is that I think it is James Baldwin that says, in every country, in every regime, there have always been some who have risen. They always will. But it's bigger than that, and we have to make sure that we're talking about the vast majority. And we shouldn't have to overcome so many challenges, you know what I'm saying? And we shouldn't have to, if I'm being honest, be afraid of the police department or the court system or what's going to happen if I raise my voice. We shouldn't have to. And I just think for someone who has achieved what I have achieved in this city, to feel afraid of the police right now, I can't imagine what somebody without my name must feel who looks like me.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go back to raising your voice. Has raising your voice cost you anything?
Yeah, it has. It's so I get my share of threats for sure, and I have one.
We kind of joked about that a little bit. We both have threats.
Yeah,
so.
You get those threats if people wish you. Somebody actually posted on Facebook that, what did they say? Something like, the world would be better without me, and could somebody please take care of it? And then I've had, you get things in the mail. I had something show up at my door, and I wonder, how did somebody get exactly to my door? What is it? And then, from the Urban League perspective, I have to raise a lot of money to do the work that we do, to help people with jobs and education and all those things. And I've had donors who, they say they're not going to give because of something that I've said that they may disagree with, or something they think I should say. So, yeah, it costs me. I think about my kids. When my kids are going out with a group of kids or going to be with other kids, I wonder do they know who their mother is? Have I said something that ticked their parents off? I mean, for the most part, the parents seem to be amazingly supportive, those who realize the connection. But the fact that I even have to think about whether my children are safe,
Right.
wherever they're trying to go at some game, is somebody going to realize that I'm their mother and be upset? And believe me, it does happen. And I think those are the things that people don't realize, that you sacrifice. I don't want the public part of this, honestly. I just
Right.
want the change. I want the work. I don't like the public part of it, because it is not just an infringement on me, but it's really even on my children. And so I don't know if people really understand
Let me
that.
ask you this. Do your kids appreciate that as well?
Not at all. My kids do not know. They're like, a lot of people seem to know you, but we don't have, like, what are we getting out of this? No,
Right.
they are not. I don't think my kids, they don't feel any fear. My kids, because I had to talk about their friends recently, because it was obvious that somebody's mother was aware of my positions, and I didn't know how she felt about it. And my daughter said, well, I don't want to be friends with anybody who wouldn't agree with the stances you're taking, which was great. But but I don't want to cost them friends. But then again, she's right. She shouldn't be friends with anybody who would, feel differently. I mean, very vehemently differently, you know what I mean? So, no, I don't. I think, I've got a 10th grader and an 8th grader. My 10th grader, I'm sure, is much more aware and probably not talking about it. And the 8th grader is like, if it ain't about me, I'm not really interested in anything you're doing.
Right.
But it looks like you're working hard, and maybe you hurt yourself.
Right.
Good luck with that.
Well, let's go back to talk about Breonna Taylor for a second. How has that case, in your opinion, how has that changed the way we look at things in the city of Louisville and across the country, for that matter?
Well, I think Bianca Taylor has changed this city. I do not think we can ever go back to where we were before. There are certain blinds that can never be drawn. Again, curtains that can never be closed. She exposed us for what we have always been. And we have been able to dress it up with nice words and some halfway thoughtful deeds. But that case really exposed what many Louisvillians were prepared to allow to happen to an innocent black woman. And she was innocent. And I don't equate innocence with perfection. I did not say she was an angel, but she was innocent. She did not deserve to be killed. And it was interesting to me how many people did not raise their voices. Now, I also think it is worth noting the number of people who did and the race of the people who did, because
Exactly.
it was a very diverse group of people who were out there protesting. You had black, white, and everybody in between, gay, straight, saying, no, we want justice for Breonna. And so to that extent, I'm really proud of Louisville for that. But I think it would have been nice earlier on to have the business community pushing on the mayor. I still believe that the officers should have been fired immediately. All of them. I think that everybody has a right to due process, and they should have had that right. But I think that the mayor should have acted differently. The chief of police should have acted differently too. And I think the community, the business community, the people the powerful people listen to, should have raised their voices earlier. I think it would have saved our community all these months of protest and the hell that we've been through, and it has really been hell. So, I think that case is an example of, and I think Louisville's going to have to say this over and over again: Black life doesn't matter here. My life matters because I'm respectable enough to white folks that I matter, but Breonna, I thought she was respectable enough, but I guess not. She was a first responder working in the middle of a pandemic, but even her death didn't do it for them. So I guess that means then if you're black and poor, if you're black and homeless, I don't know what black person we really care about, what life really does matter. And I think that's so hard for us to grasp. in this city because we are very diplomatic. And so you just don't, well, yeah, allegedly, right? And so we don't want to say that about ourselves. But I think this case is very good evidence that Black lives don't matter, and because if they did, the whole thing would have been handled differently. And if we thought maybe we were wrong, Daniel Cameron, our Attorney General, he just showed us for sure that politics and everything else mattered much, much more than that young woman's life.
Let me switch gears just a little bit. Let's talk about your job at the Urban League. What is an everyday? What is a daily deal for Sadiqa Reynolds? What do you do daily there?
Let me tell you, it's a lot. So it depends on, well, I can go pre-COVID, during COVID, anytime.
Let's go anytime.
It really all is the same. It's the difference between in-person versus Zoom meetings. So I'm doing a lot of Zoom meetings in a day, but I'm still having in-person meetings and have been. I'm the Urban League is building a sports and learning complex.
And I want to talk to you about that.
I've been raising money like crazy. That's hard. It's very difficult for me to ask for help. I wasn't raised like that. I was one of those kids where, I would get in trouble. I remember asking, I actually didn't ask. I was in the Bronx in the projects, and my friend's dad was getting ice cream off the ice cream truck came through, and he had two girls. They were playing with me. He bought them ice cream. He bought me one too. And my aunt called me upstairs because she sat on the 6th floor and she could look down and see, and she saw me with ice cream. She knew I didn't have any money. Called me upstairs, said, "What are you doing with it? How did you get it?" I said, "I didn't ask him for it. He bought it." So I was raised in this family that said don't ask people for anything. So having to fundraise goes against everything I was taught all my life. So it's very humbling for me and sometimes humiliating. And that's a whole other story. But I'm constantly meeting with corporate leaders. I am meeting with community, individually usually, sometimes groups, just depends on the issue. Constantly trying to find ways to partner. In a day, there's no way I have less than 6 meetings in any day. No less than 6 meetings. There's no less than, I'm going to say, 15 phone calls. There's no less than that. There's no day that I have a lunch just there. I can say in 5 years, probably 10 times I have just left and had lunch alone just to eat and relax for a minute. But I never, and now it's so bad that I am saying to people, and this is really TMI, but I'm like, hey, I'm on the Zoom, but I got to use the bathroom real quick. I'll come back in, because you're in the house and now you don't have the travel time. So you're just expected to bounce from one to the other. And so, right now with my injury, Jeff comes over, he's there to get me. I'm like, I'm coming, but I'm on a Zoom. And then before I can get down, I'm already late for my next one. So I'm getting in the car, I'm like, barely saying hi to him, and I'm, trying to get somebody else to connect for whatever reason. So just today, I tried to connect 2 housing organizations. I talked to 3 banks, one of them because they have a new leader in town, 2 of them because I need help with something. I had a staff meeting. I did something else. I cannot remember, but it took me 3 hours to eat my lunch, which was supposed to be my dinner for last night, but I was able to heat it up. But it's just sitting there, and I kept having to reheat it. But it is as busy as I have ever been. I would compare it probably to being Inspector General. That was a hard job. That was a lot of constant press, constant go. And Derwin, and honestly, excuse me, I should call you Judge, but
please.
It's not the life I want. I don't want to be this busy all the time. It's got to get better. And I thought COVID, the benefits of a pandemic are that you are supposed to slow down. But unfortunately, what happened for us is, the people we serve, of course, are being hit the hardest. So all of a sudden, some of the things we didn't have to do, like pay rent for people, we had to start figuring out how to get rent money because people were getting evicted because the law hadn't yet caught up with what was actually happening. So for the Louisville Urban League, we had all our normal stuff, jobs, justice, education, health, and housing, and then we had a pandemic. So the first thing was help JCPS make sure that all the kids have laptops. There's some kids, their parents aren't responding. What can the Urban League do? Okay, 236 of those kids came through us, and we got them to JCPS. For whatever reason, parents didn't respond to the school, they responded to us. Then it's like, okay, now we got evictions. Got to figure out how to raise money to pay rent for folks. Well, then, I'm a lawyer, and I get pissed off with stuff, and I heard about these landlords trying to put people out, so then I was like, oh, hell no. Now I'm going to go to court. So now I'm in court, representing 5 people for evictions, you know what I mean? So, and my own personal life is still happening, of course. And so we have, at the league, it's been all of our work, plus add on the pandemic, plus we started convening leaders of other black organizations in town because what we didn't want to see was these black-led nonprofits going out of business because they couldn't maneuver through the banking system in order to stay afloat. You know what I'm saying? So we've just been adding on, and then trying to build this complex in the middle of a pandemic. So I am really needing a break. Not tired. Mark Morial says, you don't have time to be tired. You can't be tired. We got to keep going. So, okay, I'm not tired. I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to get me a break soon.
Because you're tired.
A little bit, just a little bit.
Okay, I hear a lot of people talk about you, and they talk about you being a role model to them.
Oh, wow.
You talk about little black girls. My daughter talks about you every once in a while.
She does?
Yes, she
Oh,
does.
that's nice.
She talks about you every once in a while. But other kids, even adults, who are your role models?
Oh,
who do you look to?
Great question. I was not expecting that. So first, my mom. My mother was amazing. Unfortunately, my mother passed away. Most people know my mother committed suicide right when I finished law school. So let's see. So that's difficult. Because I'm my mom's only child. But my mother was amazing, smart, funny, and just everything. Loved me completely, but just suffered from depression. And life is what it is. Maya Angelou, I love her. I think she's amazing, inspirational. James Baldwin, I'm saying this is somebody who's not alive, but who I look to for inspiration. Carolyn Brott was my law school professor who just took me under her wing, helped me so much in law school and in after law school. She was just amazing. Carolyn was a property guru. And I worked for her during law school. So she's a white female, just phenomenal mentor, really, really wonderful for me. Former Supreme Court Justice Mary Noble, somebody else who was great to me in my career. So I've had I worked for the Chief Justice Stevens, the Kentucky Supreme Court. Great for my career, So, all of these people. I was not prepared for the role model question. I think all of my aunts. Yeah, you did get me. You caught me off guard. I've got wonderful, strong women in my family. Betty Baye. Betty Baye is a sister from New York. She's not from the Bronx, but Betty is a New Yorker. And when I met her, it was like meeting somebody. You would have thought we were related. And she has been amazing, an amazing, amazing woman for me to be constantly exposed to, for my children to be exposed to. Just really, I've been very, very blessed with a lot of good, solid, and I'm one of those, I kind of just take pieces, because I see people really for who they are. I'm not an idealist. Like I see you. I see you and I love you even with your flaws. I don't need people to be perfect to fit into my life. You know what I'm saying? So I just try to take the best of it all. And even with me, I'm very aware of my flaws and always want my children to be, better than I am in this regard or that regard, or to do something different. So I've been blessed with a lot of really great people. And I want to say this, they've come for their season. they haven't all stayed for my whole life. You know what I mean? You have people and they go away and then somebody else is there and somebody else steps in. But what I have been blessed to have is a God that constantly provides everything I need, either when I need it or before I need it. And that has been, I mean, the stories I could tell you about getting the answer the night before the test, I'm so clear that I'm on the right path. I'm so clear that I am doing God's work, because the stuff that should be hard, that should really be impossible for me, he just makes it like I get confirmation.
Well, we'll
you know
talk
what
about
I'm
your
saying?
faith, because obviously you're a woman of faith, and you would not be here without your faith. How has your faith sustained you through this journey?
Some days faith is all I have had. Some days the only person that has believed in me is God, because he gave me the vision. He put the desire in my heart and helped me to move forward. But I don't like for people to think, I hate being put on some kind of pedestal like I'm some angel, because I have a good time. I enjoy my life. There's nothing wrong with religious fanaticism unless you're extremely right-wing and hateful and you depress and distress other people because of your religion. But for the rest of the world, if they, I'm just saying, I believe there is a God, and I believe that I am covered, and I think that most of what I'm doing is in line with what I was born to do. And sometimes it's not. And I want people to know, like, let me just be clear, Michelle Obama goes high, I go low. If you coming for me, I'm coming for you. So I don't want, like, I don't want anybody to ever go, oh, I'm surprised that was Sadiqa. No, don't be surprised, because sometimes I'll just pray for the strength to,
Well, let me ask
whatever.
you this. People talk about you, let's be honest, some say good things,
Yeah.
some say bad
Who
things.
says good things? Yeah, no.
Well, I know
get
a
it.
lot of people say good things.
Yeah.
If you could describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be and why?
What would they be?
I'm going to tell you my 3 after you get
good.
finished.
Oh, you tell me
Oh,
yours.
you want me to tell you my 3?
Yeah.
My 3 would be unapologetic, real, and free. Those are the 3 words I think about when I think about you.
These are 3 words about me.
You, yeah.
Unapologetic, free, and what was the other?
Real.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you. Okay,
yeah.
those are good words. I would say strategic. I would say strong, and I would say forgiving.
Okay, let me ask you this last. And we come to a close because we don't have a lot of time. But,
I hate that.
But
This
I
is
went
fun.
through a lot of different things. I talked about you being the president and CEO of the Urban League, chief community builder, district court judge, former inspector general. You've been given a lifetime of work in a short period of time. And this I'm not saying you're about to receive your Lifetime Achievement Award. I forgot to mention your honorary doctorates as well. So I should be calling you Dr. Reynolds as well. So with all those things and all the things that you have done, all the things you want to do, how do you want to be remembered by people?
So Maya Angelou was on Oprah one day, and she tells a story of being in her bed and all of a sudden hearing the door to her house opening. And she hears this, and then she hears footsteps. And she leans up in the bed and reaches over for her gun in the nightstand and pulls it out. And she says, "Is this what you are willing to die doing?" And then she hears footsteps. And then the door. And since I heard that story, I always ask myself, is this what I'm willing to die doing? And if it's about Black people and freedom and justice and equality and equity and making the world better, then the answer is yes. So I hope that people will remember me as someone who fought every day to make the world better for everybody, and always being willing to die to do it.
I tell you this, and I say this without hesitation, being real, you're the truth.
Thank you.
I've been knowing you for about 30-something years. I remember.
Don't put no something on
Well,
it.
you
Just
know,
30.
hey, Stevenson Hall, Sadiqa. We lived in the same dorms together,
Yeah.
took classes together.
You listen, you tutored me astronomy. I would never have made it through astronomy if it were not for you. I'm serious.
And I didn't cheat to get us there. Either.
You didn't cheat. You didn't cheat. And if you were cheating, you should have given me something. Maybe I would have cheated. We did not cheat. We studied hard. You did much better than me, but I did pass the class.
But we have a long history with
Yeah.
one another through step shows, through your sorority, my fraternity. So I know you, and for all those years, you've been the same Sadiqa to me.
Thank you.
You have been true to the community, been true to yourself, and I hear you talk about what other people say. I hold you in high regard, and you talk about people not wanting to be put on a pedestal. You've always been on a pedestal for me.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
I
Thank
appreciate everything you do, and understand this: no matter what people say or whatever's happening, I'm always going to have your back. I appreciate you so much, and willing to do anything for you to make things better. If I want to get involved with the Urban League or anyone listening, what can we do to make things better for you?
Well, thank you for everything you said. I really appreciate that. You could go to our website, lul.org, Louisville Urban League, lul.org. Volunteer, make a donation, do anything. Everything helps, especially right now. We need to be getting people out to vote, maybe phone calls. I think we're redirecting a lot of people to other nonprofits to help them too for the phone calls and the voting. But listen, we're all in this together. So go to the website, find out where you fit in. And sometimes it's really just with your treasure, and that's okay too. We all have different seasons. And so I honor everybody's season. I just want everybody in the fight with me.
Get in where we fit in.
Get in where you fit in.
I appreciate it, Ms. Reynolds. Once again, this is Derwin Webb, and reminding you that it doesn't matter what I say or what you think. At the end of the day, it's all a matter of perspective. Thank you.